morning, everyone. Welcome to A Cuppa with Jason. I hope you're doing well. Wherever you're at this morning, however you're doing, my prayer is that this would be a time of encouragement and time of fellowship. I want to speak this morning in regards to this series that we're going through called The Minor Prophets of the Old Testament. And they're not minor because they're unimportant. They're minor in regards to the size of their books. They tend to be shorter in relationship to prophets like Isaiah or Jeremiah or Daniel. And when we talk about short books, we're actually going to look at the shortest book in the Old Testament this morning. So if you ever find yourself on a quiz night, like I did a few months ago, where this question came up, what is the shortest book in the Old Testament? You now have the answer. It is Obadiah. You may have never heard of that name before or heard of this book before, but it is in the Old Testament. And as I said, it's the shortest book. There's 21 verses in total for Obadiah. And when we think about Obadiah, there's a couple things that I want to really leave with you this morning. We've talked about over the last few weeks kind of a little picture and kind of a memory visual trick to help us kind of think through what these books are. And so today what I want us to remember is this is a rock. This is a rock that my daughter picked up from one of the beaches when we went to the sea. And she really liked it because it has kind of this blue color to it. And she said, "Dad, I want you to have it." And so it's precious to me. And that's what I want you to think about in regards to Obadiah is a rock. And here's the reason why. This is a small rock, but the rock that I want you to think of is a huge rock. Because Obadiah is a message from a prophet to the nation of Judah, but it's about another nation. It's about a nation called Edom. And Edom actually had a long history with Judah. The history that they had actually goes all the way back in the Old Testament to two brothers called Jacob and Esau. They were the sons of Isaac. And Jacob and Esau, twins that were born, and Judah descended from Jacob, and Edom descended from Esau. And so there was conflict. There was hundreds and hundreds of years of them fighting each other and going against each other. And so at this point in history, because of everything that had gone on, there had been ups and there had been downs, not only in their relationship, but also in the success of each of the kingdoms. And so now, as Obadiah is writing this, Edom is a very strong kingdom. In fact, they were known for almost being absolutely impregnable in regards to their defenses. You could not get at them. And part of the reason for that is because of where they were situated. They were located in these rock cliffs. And literally, if you were to come to Edom, you would have to go through this little crevice. And history says that it only took a handful of archers, a handful of soldiers that could defend against armies of hundreds and even thousands, because it forced them to go into this crevice. And so Edom was in many ways just this force, because they also were able to control some of the trade routes that went through those very rock formations, went through those cliffs, that particular area in that time. And so not only were their defenses strong, but their finances were strong, their commerce was strong. And so Edom was kind of a big boy on the block. In some ways, they were kind of the bully. I mean, if you think about when you were growing up, if there was that bully in school who could kind of get away with whatever he wanted to, this is what Edom was. And so in relationship to Judah, they really did take advantage of them and kind of pick on them in some sort of way. And so if you want to have a mental picture of kind of this rock formation and this nation that I'm talking about, if you've ever heard of Petra, the rock city, Petra, which is kind of famous in movies and in pictures, that actually is the same place. Now, it didn't look like it looks like today, where it was carved out in columns and that sort of a thing. But it's that same general area. That's where Edom's kingdom was. And so Obadiah writes this message, and he says, listen, One of the things that's happened with Edom is that they've become absolutely full of themselves. They have become prideful because they know nobody can take us down. Nobody can get to us. We are kind of the bully on the street. We're the top dog. And so Obadiah says this. It says, listen, Judah, I want you to understand that because Edom has come against you, because Edom has come against God's people, God's chosen nation, they will be judged for that. They will be absolutely judged because of their pride. In fact, one of the verses that I want to read to you today in Obadiah, and remember, it's not Obadiah chapter 1 or chapter 2. There's only 21 verses in all Obadiah. So here's what Obadiah says about Edom, all right? Notice what he says in verse 3. The pride of your heart has deceived you, you who live in the clefts of the rock, in your lofty dwelling. So in other words, Obadiah says, because you are who you are, you live where you live, you have built what you've built, it's produced pride in you. And I think that's one of the things that we want to remember about the message of Obadiah. The first thing is just simply pride almost always leads to deception and sin in our life. I don't know about you. I know pride is not one of those things that is often kind of maybe in the forefront of our lives. It's not a sin that you can necessarily point to. Some people, yes, because it manifests itself in arrogance, and it manifests itself in thinking too highly of yourself. But pride is something that, biblically speaking, is kind of one of the biggest sins that there is, because it tends to be a root for lots of other sins. When we want to think of ourselves more than what we really are, we tend to put other people down in order to elevate ourselves. And that's what Edom had done. And the Lord, through Obadiah, says, your pride is going to be your downfall. And so Obadiah continues to kind of talk about this, and really it's meant to be a promise to Judah. And that's really the second thing that I want to leave us with this morning, and kind of the overall picture of what Obadiah is saying, is that one of the reasons I personally like this book is because in some ways it's the Old Testament version of the book of Revelation. Now, Revelation to most of us seems to be, unattainable in regards to understanding it, because there's so many symbols and metaphors, and there seems to be a lot of cosmic sort of things going on, and who can interpret it, right? All through the history of the church, there are different types of interpretations. And while I do think that it is accessible, I do think that we can interpret it and understand Revelation, because God doesn't give us his word for us to just simply be lost. He doesn't give us his word and reveal himself to us so that we throw our hands up in the air and go, well, that's beyond me. God gives us his word because he wants to speak to us, and he wants to guide us, and he wants to direct us, and he wants to encourage us, and really he wants to reveal his heart to us. And so at the end of the day, what I think the book of Revelation is about is essentially God says, look, through all the ups and downs of life, through all the blessings and the disappointments of life, through all the good times and through the bad times of life, through the pandemics and through the times of life where people are prospering, at the end of the day, I need you to understand that my will is going to be done, that I am going to succeed. I am going to triumph in this world. My glory, my name, my renown will be the most important thing. Every knee ultimately will bow to me, not because I'm prideful as God, but because I am king, because I love and give and serve. Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess and admit that I am the one true God. That's essentially what Revelation says. And so now when we go back to the Old Testament and we look at this short book, the shortest book in the Old Testament, really that's a similar message. Edom, listen, you're prideful. You put your trust and you put your security in your defenses and in your ability to regulate commerce and to take advantage of the system that you live in the day. But because of your pride, you are going to be judged. And this message to Judah that Obadiah says is, listen, remember, it's the same message in Revelation. My will and my glory will be done. Ultimately, any enemy of mine will be defeated. And it goes all the way back to the beginning of the Bible. And that's what's so beautiful about the Bible. Guys, that's what I want to encourage you to continue to read the Bible. It seems at times to be something that's hard to understand, and you can open it up and you're reading these and thous, and you start spitting all over yourself because you can't necessarily pronounce the words or names of tribes and all these different people. But at the end of the day, the Bible is one story, and it's the story of God coming to you. The story of God revealing himself to you and to me and saying that even though I'm the God of the universe, I'm accessible to you. I am personal to you. I know your name. I know the number of hairs on your head. I know the number of tears that you've cried. I know your disappointments. I know your hopes. I know your dreams. I am with you every step of the way, even when it doesn't feel like it. Even when you want to reject me, I am there with you. And Obadiah is saying to Judah, even though you have been put down, even though your family, your descendants and relatives are putting you down, even though you seem to not have as much success as they have, I want you to know I've not left you and I've not forsaken you, and I'm going to judge them. I'm going to use them as an example of how much I love you. Because in the end, I'm going to win. I'm going to triumph. My name, my glory is going to triumph. And for those who follow God, that's an encouragement. Not because we want to say, yay, we win, the bad guys are put down, but it's a reminder that even at the beginning of the Bible, all the way in Genesis, when God speaks to Abraham, who is the father of Isaac, who is the father of Jacob and Esau, who were the descendants of Judah, the descendants are become Judah and Edom, all the way back in Genesis chapter 3, God says to Abraham, the father of all these nations, he says, I will bless those who bless you and your descendants, and I will curse those who curse you and their descendants. And so at the end of the day, at the end of time, I should say, God is reminding us he will triumph, that his message of love and hope and peace will triumph. His vision for the kingdom, his vision for this world, even though it doesn't feel like it now, even though it seems like the world continues to get worse and worse day by day, Obadiah is a message of hope. It's a message of to not put your security in the things of this world and the things that you think you can control. It's a message that says God will bless those who follow him, and those who don't follow him will not receive blessing. And so for those that are in the Old Testament, hearing this message from Obadiah, it was an opportunity to feel hope and to be encouraged to persevere, to keep moving forward in regards to their relationship with the Lord. And so that message is no different for us today. That message is the same for us today to say, listen, regardless of what's going on around, yes, I'm not downplaying that. I'm not saying it's unimportant. I'm not saying it's not hard. But what I am saying is I'm here with you. And I'm here with you all the way to the end, because in the end, I will be the only one standing as the one true God. So I hope that however you find your mind, your spirit, your soul today, whatever doubts that you might have about your faith or lack thereof, whatever hard things that you see going on in this world, children passing away, nations collapsing, people dying around us, all those horrible things that are going on in the world, I need you to understand that as a people of faith, though we may not fully be able to explain it, though we may not fully even like it, or we don't like it at all, God is here. And God says, I'm doing something in this world. And that even if I were to explain it to you, you wouldn't fully understand it, but I'm doing something in this world. And it's leading towards an acceptance and a confession that my way is the way. That's why Jesus says in John chapter 14, verse 6, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. That the best way to live this life is the way that God sets it up for us. That's the gospel is a gospel of hope. It's a gospel of peace. It's a gospel of compassion. And as a people of the gospel, we should be a people that show that compassion and give hope to other people. So Obadiah is trying to give hope to Judah. And hopefully this message is giving us hope today as well. So as you continue to read your Bible, I'd encourage you. Obadiah is a great place to start because it's so short. It's 21 verses. You can say, hey, I read a whole chapter. I read a whole book of the Bible today. Score. So read Obadiah, read the Minor Prophets. We're going to continue in this series for several more weeks. I'm going to take a break for the next 2 weeks because my family and I are going to enjoy some holiday and annual leave time. So for the next 2 Wednesdays, I won't be joining you, but then after that, we'll pick back up as we continue in this series on the Minor Prophets. So until then, just know I'm praying for you. I love you. Even for those who I don't know who might be watching this, through Christ himself and through his love for me and for us, we're able to share this fellowship with one another. And so I bid you well and encourage you to just continue to spend time with God, to spend time reading his word and recognizing that the Bible is one story, and it's a story of God coming to you, declaring his glory and declaring his love for you in this world. So we'll see you next time. May God bless you, and have a great day.